And we're going to be starting off with 20, and then we're going to have 10 later to look in case we have to end up going out further with our testing. In general, the flow of the Floridian aquifer is going south-southeast, but because there's so many different caverns and karst that's out here and rock formations, we don't know how it's going to end up traveling. So what we're going to be doing is sampling around the area from the site and then concentrate from there on where the flow might end up being at that point. We're going to just first start off with 10 wells that are going to be closest to the sinkhole activity, and then we're going to end up working ourselves out from that, probably about southeast, southwest area. Some points that I just want to end up getting across and tell you all is that some wells, some of the wells out here are old. Some of the wells are deep. Some of them are not as deep. Where we get concerned is with the wells that might end up being shallow, or they're not deep enough and the casing isn't far enough to end up protecting the well. So those are some things that we're going to be looking at if there's some records that we can see. Lab tests, we need to end up doing the lab test in order to see if there's a potential for any type of a health effect or health risk. And we're not going to know that until we end up doing the sampling. So we want to make sure that we're doing this systematically. We want to make sure that we're doing it carefully and thoroughly on our testing, and not just go out there and test just for the fact of testing. We're not sure of the effects of a sinkhole can cause. We just know that there is a possibility for a health effect, and that's what we're out here to try and end up gathering and getting that information. Some questions that might be dealing with the stagnant water that's back here, if that is an issue or not, and really it's not so much the stagnant water. What we're concerned about is the situation itself and looking to do our testing in the area. And then as a precaution, we're urging homeowners that are about 500 feet away from the sinkhole activity for them to end up using bottled water. If any residents feel that their water has changed in color, gotten cloudy, odors, anything of that nature that is different from what it has been before in the past, to go ahead and start using bottled water if they're concerned. Thank you.
All right, I can imagine there's probably going to be several questions for Greg as we move forward, but I do want to add one thing that I overlooked. You see some activity today here outside of our survey crews and things of that nature. You do see that Duke Energy, I believe, has one of their contractors out trimming up some trees across the way, as well as doing some prep work on some poles for first thing in the morning. As I mentioned, they will be in here at about 8 a.m. getting ready to set some new power poles. We do have some Duke Energy representatives here today off camera. If you got any scientific type questions or electrical type questions, I'm sure I can get the answers from them, and or they can present their information as well to you. I will be reaching out with Doug tomorrow to possibly have a Duke Energy representative to address you through the media, but we'll make that request and see if we can't have them here for us tomorrow morning when we get ready to move into that phase. With that being said, I'm probably going to go ahead and ask Greg to come on back up here with me and stand beside me, because I know there's probably going to be a whole lot more questions for him than me.
Hopefully I cover everything.
We'll start over on this side. Anything from the Times or Channel 8? Yes. Nothing. 13. Wow, this is pretty good. Okay.
I've got a question. You said homeowners 500 feet or closer to the sinkhole, they should use bottled water, or is that just a recommendation, or are you asking them to do that?
Okay, the question was dealing with the residents that were within 500 feet of the sinkhole activity. What we're using bottled water. What we're doing is we're recommending as a precaution. It's a recommendation that they would end up using bottled water. Here again, if they're looking at the water and there's any discoloration, if there's any clouding, if there's any odors, anything that is not the norm of what they're used to, then we strongly urge them to end up using bottled water.
Are you asking them to do that if they see the changes, or are you asking those people that are that close to just do it regardless?
We're recommending that they would end up doing that regardless if they, yes.
Next, any follow-up to that? News 9? Izzy.
If Pasco County has already done the water testing, why are you guys doing additional testing now? How is that different? Is this typical?
What the question was is that Pasco County had done some microbiological testing, and why are we coming in and doing some additional testing? The first thing that the Pasco County did was a microbe. We've been working in conjunction with each other, and so they take that because the microbes will be the first thing that can cause any type of gastrointestinal distress. So we're concerned about that at first. Then we end up in the testing that we're going to be doing is going to end up being your metals and your volatile organic compounds. Irregardless of how the test results come back, we're planning on retesting. We just have to find out what the results are, then get with our experts on what they feel is the recommended next stage on testing, and then we're going to end up doing some follow-up testing, whether it's microbiological or with the ones that we're doing currently, or that we're planning on doing currently.
Can I get a follow-up?
Sure.
Now, they picked the 9 homes that were evacuated. They picked a few additional ones that were randomly selected. When will you guys know which homes and how far out that testing is going to occur?
What we're going to end up doing is looking at our survey maps, and we're going to be looking at the houses. Excuse me, I just got some sweat in my eyes there. We're going to be looking at some houses that are immediately around the area, and we're testing. So it kind of helps us with a baseline to try and see if we do have anything, and then we gauge from there. We pull back, and then we end up seeing the results are. Then we'll end up seeing about doing testing further, looking where the plume might or might not have gone. We might not have any issues. We might not have any problems, but we want to just err on the cautious side and do the testing. Does that answer your question? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I had one over here.
Okay.
Bay News 9. I talked to you, Kevin, the other day about how we clear this hole up. We've got 1 vehicle, 2 boats, and who knows how much materials for these houses dumped into the hole. What changed the testing regimen long term based on how this sinkhole is fixed, if those are pulled out or if they're just left in the hole and filled in?
So I'm going to have to defer to Greg. Again, the question was, based on what's in the hole, if a decision is made to leave it in, does that have a long-term effect, and so on and so forth. So again, I'm going to let Greg kind of take a stab at that question. I can tell you from an environmental standpoint of the county, it's going to be my goal to have all of that stuff taken out of the hole. However, I know that there's been some other practices across the state and across the country that you just fill them in and go from there. But I think the question is more directly to the environmental impact of that stuff staying in the hole long term as to what it might do to the water. So, Greg, I think that's probably best for you.
Unfortunately, I can't answer that directly without end up doing some testing. So that's why we would do the initial testing to see what we have to start off with. Then we'll end up looking at coming back out again to do additional testing to see what effects might have occurred.
Right, Tampa Bay Times. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. As far as non-water concerns, what do you have?
So as far as
non-water,
or as far as non-water concerns and the environment, or non-water concerns? Okay.
Or both.
Well, okay.
Yeah,
So
start with environment.
Well, the first thing that's going to happen is, all of these companies that are going to be working here, whether it's Pasco County Survey or if it's Pasco County Road and Bridge, even our private contractors, they are going to have safety briefings, safety meetings. I met with the survey manager this morning, and I said, look, this is how close you can go. This is what we're doing, all those things for the safety reasons of the actual incident. The sinkhole is not growing any more than, and it hasn't grown in almost 72 hours now. But it's still dangerous conditions exist out here. It's basically now moving into like a construction demolition site so that we can do that cleanup. So we're going to continue from the safety side of the point, the human aspect side of the point of the responders and those that are in the recovery work coming in. We're going to continue to keep them safe. We're going to exercise all OSHA PPE or personal protective equipment regulations and standards. All of that's going to stay in place. From an environmental side of the house on the water, I think you've gotten a really good explanation on that from Greg and Mike this morning. Right now, we don't have any air concerns. We had no toxic releases or anything like that. So we really believe that the environmental concerns at this point are limited to just the water itself and nothing else. So I hope that adequately covers your question.
Thank you.
What can we see going on today?
So going on today is, survey is probably getting close to wrapping up their survey. They're going to give me those results. Duke Energy is here doing the prep work for tomorrow's next round of resetting poles and trying to clear the overhead obstructions. You'll see tomorrow, you may see some miscellaneous engineers coming in just trying to get a game plan for the rest of the week. Look at those safety concerns as was just asked about by the Times. But as far as activity today, you've pretty much seen what the activity is for today. Again, we are still approaching that additional 48-hour timeline that the Department of Environmental Protection asked for us to hold off on. So, you haven't seen a whole lot of work on this side other than people spray painting the ground. You haven't seen the heavy equipment or anything like that in there. So this is pretty much it for the day. We will not have any other media updates for the day but unless something happens. But this is pretty much it.
Will the cleanup process start tomorrow?
The cleanup process will not start tomorrow, and that's a great question. We are still working to get in touch with 2 of the insurance companies. And that is what it is. We're just trying to get a hold of the insurance companies and work on a game plan for the actual cleanup. We have contacted one homeowner's insurance company, and I'll go ahead and point that out. That's the gentleman that's in the gray single-story house over my shoulder here, on my left shoulder. We have been in contact with his insurance company, and they are ready to, in essence, work with us. So I'm still trying to put that, as I said 2 days ago, I'm still trying to put that meeting and conference call together. So we're not at a point where we're going to be able to do any cleanup. But even if we had that meeting already, we wouldn't be ready to do the cleanup yet because we still got to get the overhead wires out, which will be tomorrow. So I was hoping to get cleanup started somewhere around Thursday. But again, we've got to get with the insurance companies because at this point, the county cannot legally do work on that property because it's private property.
And how many homes are where people cannot go in right now?
Question is, and I forgot to do the question last time, sorry Doug. The question is how long before other homeowners can get in and how many do we have vacant? So basically we have 5 homes that are vacant right now that are basically inside the fence perimeter. The power is not onto those homes. Duke Energy has pulled that power. I am going to try to work with Duke Energy to restore power to this home tomorrow because it is, it's on the borderline of being within the necessary footage, but I'd like to at least get the power back on and put some environmental, air conditioning and things like that back onto that home. But as far as people moving back in, we're still at a point where they cannot move back in, and I'm still looking like several days before that can even happen.
So other than the 5 homes, everyone else is back in?
Yeah, as far as the 5 homes, everyone else has been allowed to return. I will say that there are some people that have said, you know what, I'm just not comfortable. We're watching their homes. We're ensuring people don't go in there and do, stuff to their homes with the sheriff's office and whatnot. But that's a personal decision. There was a question over here, I believe. Can you repeat the United?
Yeah, I had one. What is the name of the company again that's going to be doing the testing of the roadways and the easement?
Intertech. Intertech, and it'll be released later today. But it's INTERT, Intertech, INTERTEK, PSI. There's a hyphenated name there, Intertech-PSI, and they are a contracted county that has gone through the bid process and whatnot with the county to help us on road engineering and looking for ground, doing that subsurface type surveying and whatnot that we don't have the ability to do within the county. Right, and again, we are going to have them here tomorrow morning to answer any of your questions that you may or may not have. There's one more thing that Doug wanted me to point out, and we'll close out the briefing with this, is we released yesterday that for individuals that wanted to donate, again, United Way of Pasco has set up a fund for the victims of this, and Doug, I'm not seeing that actual number here in this particular section. So if you know it, so again, the United Way of Pasco has set up a fund. We're going to give you the information again that you can text to that number. You can go on their website. You can make a phone call about donating to ensure that the people that are actual victims of this will get that money. So again, if they want to donate, they can text the word sinkhole altogether, sinkhole to 41444, or they can donate online at unitedwaypasco.org. So again, repeating that, they can text the word to sinkhole at 41444 or donate online at unitedwaypasco.org.
Sorry, last thing. You said the structural integrity company that's going to take no doubt tomorrow.
Right, but again, let me please. The question was, when is the structural? Basically the geotechnical engineers and survey company, when are they coming out? It's tomorrow morning. But I want to set a clear expectation within the community, within the homeowners. They are surveying the county property. We cannot have them go, that may be plus minus a certain number of feet within the easement so that we can ensure the integrity of the easement in the roadway. They will not be going onto people's property and doing surveys on people's property. The county cannot pay for that. If homeowners wish to do that and have surveys done, then they need to do that on their own through their homeowners insurance companies or other individuals. But the county cannot use taxpayer dollars to go onto private property and conduct those tests. So I just, again, want to lay that clear expectation that they're going to be working within X number of feet of the easements, which may take them slightly on the private property, but what are they ensuring? They're ensuring the structural integrity of the roadway and the easements. All right?
And even though you're not having another press conference today, you expect the results from the water testing about 3, so you'll send that out in the media release?
So Doug, why don't you go ahead and address that, and then you can talk about tomorrow's press conference as well.
Regarding the water testing, public safety is our #1 concern. So if we see something that needs to be alerted to the public as far as this doesn't look right, and we have a bottled water announcement or a boil water announcement, I don't anticipate that happening. At this point, we don't have any evidence to suggest that there is contamination among the wells, but that's why we're doing the testing as well. And if something does come up, we will do a media alert and notify this public immediately that we've had some abnormalities and going to do further testing. So just the testing that we did here is just the beginning. We'll probably continue to do testing throughout this process just to make sure that the water wells are safe and the water, drinking water supply is safe to drink. Just anything else from DOH that I wanted to correct?
Yeah, I'll let Greg come up after that, but I'm just going to add an exclamation point to something that Doug said. We're going to notify the homeowners immediately. We will then notify you guys via media alert, and if we need to have another stand-up, then we'll do that, and it will be probably about 2 hours out after. But we'll notify the homeowners immediately. You will know very soon thereafter of what the results were. Okay. So, and then Greg, you want to follow anything up on that as well? Obviously, maybe what you talked to is if something comes back with abnormality, then the next phase of our response.
The microbiological testing that was done is to look for total coliform and also for the presence of E. coli. And what it is a presence or absence type test that the lab will be giving us a result back. So if it ends up coming back with a presence of one of those, we'll end up doing like was already stated, we'll end up notifying the owners, and they would need to end up either boiling their water or using bottled water, and then we would end up following up with a confirmation test to make sure of what the results happen to be. Generally, set aside from this, normal is if we have a well that comes back with a P or an A, we end up doing a confirmatory test. If the test still comes back with one of those, then we end up having them get a hold of a well drilling company that can come out and professionally disinfect their well and the well head. That's what they're trying to end up disinfecting with bleach, and then there's another test that gets done afterwards to see if that cleared it up. Having bacteria in your water, could be, could not be anything that deals with the situation that's going on out here. We have wells throughout the county that sometimes they do come back with, presence of coliform, and this is the standard that we end up following.
Any other questions?
I have one. Can you give a brief comment just to the long road ahead of cleaning up and recovering from
the question was, can you give a brief comment as to the anticipated, this is going to be a long-term recovery, and how long is that going to take? Isabel, I've been saying all along, we're going to be in the recovery mode for weeks, if not months. So it's going to be just that. It's going to be a part of getting the debris removed, then the decisions on is the sinkhole repaired and filled? Does it become a water feature? What does it look like after that? But at the end of the day, to the point of the question, it's going to be months. We're going to be here probably 2-3 months. I'm thinking, based on what engineers are telling me, what construction folks are telling me, we're probably going to be here for 2 to 3 months. All right, folks. Again, as Doug's already alluded to, if there's something new, we're gonna let you know, and we're gonna shoot for an 11 o'clock on site here tomorrow. 11 o'clock. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Did anybody lose an